Hey everybody, this is John for MTG Nexus with a quick deck overview before we play quick hits. This one being Golgari Yawgmoth. Now, Yawgmoth is a deck that we've ironically never played on the channel, and most of my experience with it comes from playing against it or watching people like Demonic Tutors play. But basically, Yawgmoth is a creature combo deck with a little bit of resilience built in through the Undying creatures and use of Planeswalkers. Yawgmoth, Thran Physician, is a unique card. It's a 2/4, but once again, like most broken cards in this format, it's a Modern Horizons card. 2/4, protection from humans, pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. Then has black, draw, discard a card, proliferate. Now this plays especially nice with the Undying creatures, Yawgmoth and Stranglerootgeist. This deck also used to include the card Geralf's Messenger as the primary way to ping your opponent to death. But generally what you do is you sacrifice one of your Undying creatures. You either need Hapatra, Stranglerootgeist, or Yawgmoth, some combination of those creatures to kind of go infinite, so to speak. Basically what you do is you sacrifice your creature, one of your Undying creatures. You put a -1/-1 counter on something, and then it comes back with Undying. You then sacrifice one of your other Undying creatures or the token you're getting from Hapatra to reset the -1/1 or +1/+1 counter and just kind of get this loop going with Undying creatures. Now what this allows you to do is effectively draw a good 5-10 cards, or if you have certain cards like Blood Artist, or sometimes you'll see Zulaport Cutthroat, you have the ability to drain your opponent out infinitely. This used to include Geralf's Messenger, but does no longer really do that. In place of this, just would be 2 damage or 2 life loss every loop. Beyond that, you get to play a reasonable green-black rock style deck. You have some early acceleration with Delighted Halfling, which makes your Grist and your Yawgmoth uncounterable. Ignoble Hierarch, and Wall of Roots, which counts as 2 for your Court of Callings. We'll get into that in a minute. But the rest of your deck is, things like Stranglerootgeist, Yawgmoth. Grist is a weird card for a Modern Horizons 2 that is a creature, except for when it's on the battlefield, then it's a Planeswalker. And then this allows you to Court of Calling for Grist out of your deck, in addition to Eldritch Evolution if you happen to play that. Hapatra also kind of goes with the Undying effect creatures, in that whenever you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, create a snake token, and then you can use the snake token as kind of part of the chain that you would normally do with the Undying creatures. Then finally, Spike Feeder. Sometimes this is Walking Ballista. Pairs quite nicely with the new addition to the deck, Agatha Soul Cauldron. And then Court of Calling and sometimes Eldritch Evolution ties it all together. I guess Soul Cauldron is a weird one. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have all activated abilities of creature cards exiled with Agatha Soul Cauldron. Tap, exile target creature from a graveyard. When a creature card is exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Convenient graveyard hate, also the ability to get activated things. Okay, so Yawgmoth, Spike Feeder. How this feeds in is, okay, you sack your Undying creature, it comes back with a +1/+1 counter. If you have an Agatha Soul Cauldron and you've exiled your Spike Feeder or Walking Ballista, you then get to either ping your opponent if it's Walking Ballista, or you get to remove the counter, gain 2 life, and then you can continue this 1-card infinite loop. Constantly resetting, well, not quite infinite loop, but 1 card resetting your Yawgmoth, and then you can sacrifice whatever other creatures to keep the loop going. And that is the deck, the main deck. Dryad Arbor facilitates a lot of what's going on with this nonsense. You get to play a couple copies of Beseiju, which is kind of main deck hate for things like Leyline the Void or other hate cards you might run into. Pendelhaven is a way to pump your creatures, although you don't really have that many X1s anymore. Or 1/1s anymore, but still a decent card to have access to for a very low cost. And your sideboard is a bunch of bullets and some removal spells. Chalice, these are primarily here for any of the Cascade nonsense. The One Ring for grindier matchups. Haywire Might when you need a creature you can cord for Artifact hate. Artifact or Enchantment hate, Fulminator Mage against decks like Tron, or Amulet. Force of Vigor, good against Urza's Sagas, Blood Moons, Hammer Time, Tron, etc. Elven Chorus, nice grindy card pairs. Very similarly to the One Ring with what it does. You look at the top card of your library, cast creature spells from it, and then creatures you have control can tap for mana. Endurance, pseudo anti-living end nonsense cards, good against Murktide. Also good ways to kind of recycle your deck in long grinding games, but primarily there for decks that are trying to utilize the graveyard. Fatal Push, go for the Throat, Legion's End, all kind of selective removal spells for different situations. And then Shoulder of the Apocalypse, a card that was already popping up more and more in these decks even before the One Ring was printed, as it's decent against decks like Burn and such, good against the kind of the grindy decks as this kind of standalone threat if they're really hard on trying to take your graveyard out of the equation. But still very good card, especially in the Up the Beanstalk, the One Ring meta that we're kind of in, besides Scam and such. So that is Yawgmoth, what it generally does. Let's get into a match and see how the deck plays. Alright, doing quick hits with some Modern Yawg. This hand is a bit dicey on the mana, but does have a green source, does have a couple mana dorks, and one of the ways to set up Yawgmoth, so seems like a reasonable enough hand. We'll lead on Ignoble. It helps cast our things a little bit better. The Ghost Quarter into Shadow Spear. Okay. Not sure what that means, but okay. So I can either play this. I need to play Halfling, or I can play Hapatra, but not both. So I think we'll just play Halfling, attack for 1 with Ignoble and pass. Deals cut damage, put 1 or more, create a snake. Okay. So tap this for black. Our opponent concedes. And I have no idea what our opponent's on, so what the heck is the purpose of Spike Feeder? I guess in a way that combos with Soul Cauldron, similar to how Walking Ballista does it. Remove +1/+1 counter, gain 2 life, then you can continue the Undying nonsense with Yawgmoth. But as far as what our opponent has, we bring in like a Fatal Push. Feels like they're like some type of green Urza Saga deck, but that's not exactly part of the normal format, so we go down Bowmasters instead. Do a minimal sideboarding, because you're playing these kind of creature combo decks. You just want to be as minimalistic with sideboarding as possible. Yeah, hands is not as broken as the first hand, but still pretty good. We have Yawgmoth, Soul Cauldron, Delighted Halfling. Well, it's mulliganing aggressively, so they may just concede here. Okay, sure. Not really. Okay, put it with 2 cards in hand. We get Overgrown Tomb here. Play Wall of Roots. Let's go and attack for 1. Maybe we were supposed to just play Strangle Rootgeist here. Start getting a little bit more BE aggressive. One is an Abzan deck, but I have no idea what their strength of their deck is. Yawgmoth. Okay. Samwise combo. Okay. See if our opponent bites. Good pass. Interesting choice. Go ahead and pass with some mana up here. What, I have no creatures to wish for that actually blow up enchantment. Okay. with these. Jump the gun a little bit here. And this is why Yawgmoth is just so freaking stupid at a deck. Two, three, four, five, six, seven. Alright, and you get a general idea of what Yawgmoth's capable of, even if your opponent has the graveyard hate.